And welcome to the water cooler, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Brody. It's Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. And long gone are the days when indoctrination was the only part of the left's agenda that we had to fight in order to keep our kids safe, because the left has officially reached a whole new level of going after our children. That's right. Critical race theory simply wasn't enough torture for one generation. Now they're forcing our kids to put their physical health at risk as well.
At what point will you ask them to also start checking for vax cards for 5 to 11-year-olds?
That's a very good question, and honestly, one we need to focus on now. We wanted to get to the day where we actually could vaccinate the youngest New Yorkers and get that rolling. We know it'll take a while. I mean, right now, to use the example of the 12 to 17-year-olds, very good news, we're almost at 79% of them. That's fantastic, but it did take a while. So it's a great question, Elizabeth. It's one I don't think we're going to settle immediately, because it will naturally take a number of weeks for that age group to get vaccinated. But it's a question we need to answer for the weeks ahead, and we'll come back on it.
Why do we need to answer that question? 5 to 11-year-olds? Why is that such a big concern of yours, Bill? You didn't seem this concerned when your entire city was on fire in the wake of the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020. No, as a matter of fact, you went along your merry way painting a mural. Good job, Billy. But he's not the only one daydreaming about the day he gets to mandate the COVID jab for children who can't even read yet, by the way. It's really the entire Democratic Party. Their audience for the vaccine seems to get younger and younger every day. They even hijacked a Sesame Street character on Twitter to get the message out, as I'm sure you've heard. According to Big Bird's Twitter account, something we follow regularly here at the show, I got the COVID-19 vaccine today. My wing is feeling a little sore, but it'll give my body an extra protective boost that keeps me and others healthy. Miss Erica R. Hill even said, I've been getting vaccines since I was a little bird. I had no idea. Yeah, so much for the unbiased media. And Erica Hill, by the way, is a CNN reporter, just for the record. But even Joe Biden replied on Twitter, saying this to Big Bird: good on ya, Big Bird. Getting vaccinated is the best way to keep your whole neighborhood safe. The best part is that an intern wrote that and had to think, I wonder what Joe Biden would say if he knew how to use an iPhone. And then decided to go with good on ya. And speaking of the president, remember this summer when his handlers invited teen pop sensation Olivia Rodrigo to the White House to promote the vaccine with Dr. Fauci?
Hey, I'm Olivia Rodrigo.
And I'm Tony Fauci.
Today we're here in the White House and we're going to read some tweets about the vaccine.
All right, let's see what we got here. I'm taking an immunology course and I got an A on my last exam. My immediate thought was, wouldn't Dr. Fauci be proud of me? Absolutely. When you get vaccinated, your body makes an immune response that's going to protect you against the virus. So maybe this person can go and talk about the immunology of getting vaccinated.
Heck yeah, I'm proud of them. And somebody said, Olivia Rodrigo to the vaccine clinic. Very true. All of the funny puns, as long as you're getting vaccinated, that's great, whatever it takes.
I had a dream that I got the COVID-19 vaccine and met Dr. Fauci afterwards. I told him that I bought his bobblehead and he was super cool about it.
I saw your bobblehead today.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was great. Did anyone else spend their Friday afternoon driving to their second vaccine appointment and crying to Olivia Rodrigo, or was that just me? Hey, I love that. I'm so happy that I'm soundtracking your vaccine appointment. That's great. That makes me very happy.
PPL made fun of these Dr. Fauci prayer candles, but we got my dad one for his birthday in November. So he lit it every night, and everyone in my immediate family was fully vaccinated. So maybe there's something there.
I need like a Fauci candle and the Fauci bobblehead right next to each other.
Oh, that's so much fun. A Dr. Fauci prayer candle, really? Nah, I'm good. That must have been where Kathy Hochul got the idea to ask New Yorkers to be her apostles. But look, the moment they brought a celebrity teenager into the picture was the moment we should have stopped them dead in their tracks, because clearly none of this has anything to do with saving lives. Study after study has confirmed that the mortality rate for children is so low it's nearly non-existent. But what studies have not confirmed, just as they haven't for adults, is that the COVID vaccine will not have serious adverse side effects. In fact, we have plenty of evidence to believe that it is very much a concern, even more so than for adults. Think about it, right? Kids' brains and bodies are still in very early developmental stages. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to come to the conclusion that it would be risky to throw a vaccine into the equation that has already presented many risks to fully grown adults. In fact, here's what could happen based off of what we know already. Now, this is according to Informed Choice WA, quote, 600,000 12 to 15-year-olds rushed to get the COVID jabs within the first weeks of the EUA expansion. Counting the 16 and 17-year-olds who had previously received Pfizer's vaccine, the total number of injected adolescents ages 12 to 17 now numbers 4.1 million. These teens and families were likely unaware of the serious adverse events such as blood clots and Guillain-Barré disease syndrome, already being experienced by those 16 and older. After a 17-year-old Utah athlete developed blood clots in his brain one day after receiving his first Pfizer injection, the basketball player's mother tearfully aired her buyer's remorse, stating her son was healthy and well before, and the hardest thing was I let him get that shot. That is incredibly sad, and even worse when you realize that the government could have prevented it by, wait for it, not doing anything at all, not widely administering the vaccine. The website goes on to cite the following quote. Here it is. The FDA committee that steered the decision chose to ignore urgent warnings from around the world about the vaccine's risks for children, including a letter by 93 Israeli doctors who wrote in April that, quote, not even a handful of children should be endangered through mass vaccination against a disease that is not dangerous to them. According to a recent New York Times article, for children, the evidence so far does not offer much reason for alarm about COVID-19's long-term effects. Conversely, the Israeli doctors and other experts have emphasized that it cannot be ruled out that the vaccine will have long-term adverse effects that have not yet been discovered at this time, including on growth, reproductive system, or fertility. And look, we should also point out that the CDC was no better than the FDA. Here's another quote. Notwithstanding warnings about COVID vaccine risks for children, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention followed up with an immediate endorsement of FDA's EUA expansion, and CDC Director Rochelle Walensky called on healthcare providers to begin administering the still investigational vaccine to younger adolescents right away. Folks, let me just say, and I'll try to say this nicely, but you're an idiot if you still trust the government with your child. And I don't mean to be judgmental, it's just a fact. The left's attack on our children is not just psychological, it is now physiological. It was bad enough that the government went so far as to force adults to get vaccinated. But now it's become far more sinister, putting the most vulnerable members of our society at risk, and the government isn't even following their own science in the process. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that this seems to be a trend on the left, whether it be through abortion, rapes happening in schools due to woke bathroom policies, human trafficking due to the open border, and now through harmful vaccines. The far left are physically hurting children. I can't say it more plainly than that. It's the truth. And why? Why does Bill de Blasio want a 5-year-old to get a harmful vaccine so badly? Why? Well, these are the questions we need to be asking, because if you, regardless of whether or not you took the vaccine, if you stay complacent, then you are part of the problem. The only way we will win this battle between good and evil is if we stand up for the vulnerable. We did it with critical race theory, but as you can see, the fight is far from over on every other front. And joining me now to weigh in is New York Young Republican President Gavin Wax. Gavin, great to have you back on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Gavin, Mayor Bill de Blasio soon wants to mandate vaccines for these 5 to 11-year-olds. You've seen and actually helped lead the pushback there in New York against these vaccine mandates. Given what you've seen, how do you think people are going to react to this new mandate for kids, Gavin?
I think we're going to start to see a bit of a pushback, even though it is New York. I think when you start to bring kids into the equation, people's children, their own family, that's when you start to see a bit more pushback than you would normally. This is a sensitive topic for many people, and I just don't understand what exactly the goal is. By de Blasio's own numbers, we're at 79% and in many different categories for vaccination rates. What is the goal? 100%? You're never going to get 100% of anything. without involving, serious force or coercion. So you're going to get into some serious negative territory there, very tyrannical stuff, if your goal really is 100%. But what we're really going to see, and what's going to be interesting to see, is now that we're going into the winter months, and we know that this virus is seasonal, and we see an uptick in cases and in deaths, what is the narrative going to be? What is the narrative going to be in a place like New York, where there is such high rates of vaccination, where they have such over-the-top policies, from masking to vaccine mandates to social distancing, when the numbers start to creep up again? Who are they going to blame? What is the excuse going to be? I think they're going to start scapegoating the dwindling number of unvaccinated New Yorkers. And I think it's just going to show that they really have no answers, and that this is all about power, control, and purging various institutions of people that don't want to get the jab.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, you said, what's the ultimate agenda here? It's power and control. It's a human nature situation. And liberals with power and control, oh my gosh, it's like a utopia for them, Gavin. Now, I assume if they mandate this for kids, that's also going to include, obviously, public schools. Well, do you think we're going to see a similar backlash to the mandates in New York schools as we did to critical race theory in Loudoun County? I mean, the mama bears in this country, at least in Virginia, New Jersey, seem to be pretty awake now.
Look, I would hope so. I mean, I think New York is a bit farther gone as far as the political makeup of the city. But I think there'll start to be some pushback against this. I think a lot of parents are struggling and want to get their kids back into school, and they want to get their kids to have normal lives again and be unmasked. I think the incoming mayor, Eric Adams, said that he was going to end the mask mandate, but I don't think he went into the details. And I think the details are going to be forced vaccinations, which I think is the next step. They're going to be forcing it on children to be part of the public education system. And I think that's just wrong. I think that this entire push to vaccinate children is not based on science. It's not based on any public health emergency.
Right.
It's just based on loading the pockets of big pharma, who won't even stand by their own product. I mean, if their product is so good and it's working and it's effective, then they should be willing to accept legal liability if it's not. But they don't. They have protective shields from any kind of people who've suffered adverse reactions from the vaccine, but they want to basically force it on everyone and attack anyone who dares to question it.
There's so many different battles going on here: power, control, and then information, right? The information that gets into the hands of people. And I find it that that information available can be pretty deceiving. So Anna told me when she was researching for the monologue here today, it was really hard to find anything other than CNN, other mainstream media articles promoting the vaccine rather than finding real research. I mean, she had to dig deep to find the research. I mean, it's her job to do that. It's fine. She doesn't have a problem with it. It took an extra 20 minutes or so. But here's the point. For a parent, just trying to find the truth about how risky a vaccine can be, is crucial here. It seems big tech has made this very, very difficult.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is a information war going on. They are trying to suppress alternative viewpoints, anything that goes against the orthodoxy or the established line of thinking, which is constantly changing, by the way. Throughout this entire pandemic, we're told one thing, then it's changed the next day. There's been a ton of gaslighting, especially from these public health officials, like the noted Dr. Fauci, who you included in your monologue. So they're constantly changing, and that's actually part of the strategy. It's confusion. It's shifting messaging. It's shifting science. It's shifting numbers. No one knows what's truth, what's false, what's real, what's not, and they just begin to give in because they're just going to say, okay, whatever the authorities tell me to do, I'm just going to defer to it because it's too hard to keep up with this. It's too confusing. People are just going about their lives. It's all part of the strategy. It's part of this gaslighting mentality that's prevalent throughout the media, our institutions, academia, wherever it is, and it's very unfortunate. And I think we should have an open, healthy public discussion on the merits and demerits of this vaccine push, which just seems extremely over the top. We're completely forgetting about herd immunity that's achieved through natural immunity, something that I have, that many Americans have, right, who had COVID, who had some form of COVID, and now they're more immune than those that are vaccinated. But they don't want to talk about that science. They only want to talk about science that aligns with their narrative.
Gavin Wax, really appreciate you coming on the show today. By the way, we will be sending you a Fauci candle. I hope that's okay. Do you already have one? I'm just checking. You don't have one.
I don't. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I wonder what the smell is going to be like. I hope it's not scented.
I think it's going to be a nasty smell, FYI. All right, Gavin, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming next, Anna Perez actually going to be here on the anchor desk. I'm going to go ahead and take a lunch break since she's going to talk with the famous truck driver turned politician Edward Durr from New Jersey. The founding fathers would call him a hero. Once again, I'll take a lunch break. Anna's going to be here with that big interview when we come back.